Are you good to go?
Yep, all right.
Right, let's do it. Recently, we were talking about, basically, in short form, the rat race. This cycle of perpetually being in this sort of eat, sleep, go to work, and repeat. This is something that, when we were at the club talking about this, you didn't really put a sort of emotion to it, whether this was a concern or not. But it didn't seem to sort of voice immediate pleasure. It wasn't something that you were immediately thinking, yeah, I'm glad that this is the way that things are going. Yeah. First of all, just to lay our foreground here, what's going on there?
For me, it's complicated because it's like, but it's how life is. I felt like before, when I was at school, even though it was school,
yeah.
I felt I was doing something different every single day because you're doing different lessons, you're doing this and that. I didn't like school at all when I was little. I went to 2 primary schools, 2 secondary schools because I was struggling so much. And I always thought, oh, as soon as I start working, it would be better. As I've been doing work now only been doing it for about 2 years now, and what I've realised is me doing this consistent cycle of the exact same thing mostly every single time, and sometimes not doing something different, I question, why am I doing this? Am I actually happy? Or I'm trying to figure out, am I happy? It's like, you're doing the same thing again and again and again, and I realise the more I keep doing it, the time just goes quicker and quicker. Like, we're literally nearly at the end of April already, and it's becoming, in my head, like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
It feels like I feel like this is what life is. I'm finally realising this is life now. Your life consists of 3 things, mostly, unless something magical, something different happens. It's work, sleep, repeat. And on my days off, I try and do something, because if I don't do something, I'm just going to lay in my bed or just doom scroll on TikTok until, all right, bedtime. Then before I wake up the next day, I've got work again. So I'm doing the work, sleep, and eat cycle. And I didn't really think about it until 2 weeks ago about it really is just this, isn't it, for 70 years until I retire. It will generally be like this. And I'm like thinking to myself, is there anything I can do to make it interesting? Like, I'm trying to be, do I need to change a game plan, or do I just say, okay, I'm happy of what I'm doing and I'm trying to push forward and think, okay, maybe one day something different will pop up and your life will go into a different direction. But for now, I think I'm trying to accept the fact that you're in a stable bit. So maybe it's a good thing to know you've just got a schedule and it's the same thing every single time, and you need to just relax and accept it. But I don't know if I want to change it to be something different so I don't get bored.
Do you think life is just sort of happening to you at the moment rather than you experiencing it?
Yeah, I 100% see what you mean by that. Saying life, it probably is just, life is just happening at the moment. This is what life is. It's a cycle that we all do to compute of each day as it comes. And it is the cycle of life, or like the circle of life, as the African Lions would say. And it is just that we all live in a certain cycle, and we all just keep going until we get to the day where we die.
See, it really interested me when you first broached this question, and further to that point there of how you sort of phrase it, that it does, from your perspective, feel as though it is sort of, you're not the one that's pulling the strings. Someone else has dictated where it is that you're going to be and what time you're going to be there. It feels from my end as though you're perceiving the coming steps of your life as already pre-made and not by you. It's as though work puts you in one place and life puts you in the rest of the other places, and you're just essentially sort of going, all right, okay, I guess we're here now. And from my perspective, I don't feel like you think you've got much control over what it is that you're doing or wanting to do.
Yeah, 100%. I barely have control. I think because work basically tells me what time I need to be there, and so I'm basically going there when they want me there. So maybe yes, I don't have control of my life because it's basically I'm on a time schedule each single day, except the days when I have off. That's the only time when I'm not on a time schedule and I'm at my own devices. Other than that, it is just set time for me to go to work, do what I need to do. Soon I finish work, go and see Uncle Ian and all of my friends and up the club, and then go to bed and then sleep, and then next day probably all the same again, because it is just I think it literally like the same routine. When I finish work, I go up to the club and see Ian and Sue and all like my dad and everyone, and soon I've done that, sleep, and then next day's probably the same again.
It go again.
It go again.
Around the circle goes.
Around the circle it goes, and before you know it, we're in Christmas and we're near the end of the year. It's I definitely think with this, I think because my nan said to me when I was younger, as you get older, life does go a lot quicker, and I can kind of see where she's coming from now. Because when you're doing the exact same thing, when you start a cycle of just the same thing, when you have a job and the same thing, and you do the same things over and over again, it goes 10 times, 20 times quicker. And I didn't believe it when I was like, it's just, life takes so slow, time is so slow, but it is quick. I'm only 21. I'm only 20. I was 21. No, I'm 20. I'm only 20, and I still think it's going way too quickly. I don't know how my nan feels at that point. But it's just, it's constant quickness, and it's just,
I think there's going to be a very interesting sort of back and forth on the point that I'm about to make, because I think essentially what you're touching on is the speed and the velocity at which life moves when you're in a routine. And the reason why that is the case, and this is something that I have experienced more and more as I've done more and more of what it is that we're doing here. When you do the same thing over and over again, it becomes very blurred. You feel as though because you're doing the same thing, there's no sort of unique element to each day, because if you're one day you go to work, you come back from work, you go out with your friends, and then you go to sleep and you do it again. If the next day you do it again, well, there's not much difference between the Tuesday and the Wednesday, and such, and as a result, rather, you will feel as though things are just blending together into one. I have experienced this on the sort of inverse, where if you can cut me off at any point in this if this is wrong, but I feel as though you're not entirely content with the way that is happening. From my perspective, I am content with the way that things are going. This is the obligation that I have bestowed upon myself as to be a podcaster, is to do the same thing over and over and over again. But I want to do it. So it's very interesting the fact that, and this is the direction I'm going to take this in today in large part, is how routine can be very helpful and sometimes not so helpful. Because, as I say, from my perspective, it is very useful in terms of making that speed of time feel like a good thing, because you feel as though you're getting a lot done. But if you're not angling that energy in the right way, you might come out of the other side of that feeling like, as we mentioned there, that life is just sort of happening to you.
I can understand where you're coming from. Like, sometimes, you can be happy with what you're doing. Maybe I'm just content, and maybe I'm not happy, and I'm just because some bits of my other job frustrate me, and I'm trying my best, and sometimes I feel like I'm just trying to, maybe I'm just not as happy as I want to be, but in my head I always have to think to myself, just the money at the end of the month. That's how I have to always think. And maybe I think I'm content. I won't say I'm happy, but I'd say I'm just content. It's just like, I want to do something different, but I don't know how to open the doors for myself. And sometimes I get anxiety and all of that, so all my things. So I tuck myself in a hole, and I'm just happy to, I'm just content with what I'm doing. So I basically become numb to wanting to do something else, or just completely just numb. It's like, okay, this is just life. This is what life is then. I'm putting a thing in my head saying, this is life. It is just a cycle that we do to just get us through life. And maybe something big will happen, the little things, the little victories, the big victories, that will just happen in time, and you just get random events that just happen that shakes up your life a little bit. And
see, this is the interesting thread that I want to run with today, is this feeling of, from your perspective, it very much does sound like you're just sort of You're like you're waiting, poised for things to happen. When they happen, you'll be there to experience them. But until that point, you're in a sort of just a lull. You're sort of just waiting for that point to come.
I'm waiting for the major life turning point of my life.
Yeah.
Where a massive change happens, and we'll see where it goes. At the moment, I'm just waiting for that moment, so I'm just content of just doing what I can, and then maybe something major in my life will happen, and it will change who I am as a person, or like something huge will happen. It's like I'm waiting for the, like, as Spider-Man or Spider-Verse says, waiting for the next canon event, waiting for the next big event that changes everything. And for now, it's just keep self-content and just keep the cycle going and keep like this certain routine in my head going until maybe something happens. So I won't say I'm happy. I'm just content waiting for the next big chapter to happen, and I don't know when it will come.
But this is the thing that I'm interested with on this topic is life doesn't happen to you. Even if your actions are currently ones that are not sort of the person who goes out and decides I'm going to go to 50 conferences a month and I'm going to go and get all this work done, I'm going to put myself in the places, who then experiences the change as a result of their efforts, has made a decision to do that. And the person who has said, well, I'm content to stay where I am until that happens, has also made a decision to do that. You orchestrate what happens in your life, even if you don't do that consciously, because you're the one that's experiencing it. So, for instance, the difference between, say, someone goes out, and to use a simple example that we can refer to well, if someone goes out and consciously looks for a partner, they have made a decision to do that. If someone says, I'm just gonna carry on staying at work and I'm just gonna do that, similar situation to yours, and someone walks into their work and they meet them as a result of that, that too is a decision that has got you to a point. So essentially what I'm touching on there is you can be the one who orchestrates the decision with conscious thought of, I want that, so I'm going to go and get that. Or you can be in a position for life to essentially just wash over you and happen. Before we carry on, do you know what I mean when I say the rat race?
No, you explain.
So the rat race essentially is this idea of exactly what you're talking about. It's like I wake up, I go to a job that I don't like, and I endure that, and I come home and I'll have dinner with my wife and we'll go again. And it's sort of this perpetual cycle of discontent, like an ambient feeling of discontent, but life is not bad enough for you to change.
Yeah.
That's essentially what the rat race is. And one of the key elements of the rat race that people abhor and as a result want to so fervently get out of this position is that feeling of, I'm not the one doing any of this. I'm the one experiencing it. It's me who is involved in this relationship. It's me who's got the pay rise. It's me that's done this, but I don't actually feel like the author of my life. I feel like someone else is writing the story and I'm reading it almost, and as a result I know what's going on, but I wasn't the one that wrote this down on the paper. I think control, or lack thereof, is a very eminent part of society now, where we feel as though we don't have control. We feel like we're working a job that there's a wonderful quote on this, that the iPad is there for a reason, but I'm going to have to work out how to do this thing so it's more efficient. But there's I can't recall the quote well enough for me. I'm gonna move on past the point. I shall work that one out. Yeah. Essentially, what I was going to say is the fact that we will work jobs that we don't like to get money, to buy things that we don't need, to impress people that we don't like. Yeah. That's words to the effect of that quote. And as a result of that, we do sort of get into this cycle of just doing things for the sake of doing them, basically. It's like, why am I working this job? Well, because you need to pay your bills. Why do I need to pay my bills? Well, because you need to keep a roof over your family's house. Well, is there not a better way that I can do this? I'm not happy doing this. No, not really. Okay, all right, we'll go again then. And that's the sort of the cycle that people get stuck in, is feeling as though the place that they're in is the only place that they can be. And I think I'm going to let you take the stage in just a moment, but I don't think this is the case. As someone who has committed himself to some positive things and has experienced two very different versions of himself, I know that we have more control over where we go than we think we do. And it's very easy to think that you have absolutely no control, and that it is, well, I need that job because I need this, and so it goes on. But it's not the case. There are ways that you can orchestrate what it is that happens, and I'd be interested to see how much sort of power you feel as though you have on that point. How much movement do you think you can do?
Depends how much I can change me, or change how to perspect things. So how to change my life. Because I think, like you said, I think the rat race thing, what you say, is absolutely how I feel. You are just, why do you do it? Oh, you got to do it because of that. You got to do it because of that. And I can understand what you're saying. Maybe I do need to take more control of my life, and maybe I should stop waiting for things to happen and make things happen. But I think it also goes back to my anxiety I have, and I'm scared of. In my life, I always believe that actions will always have consequences, and I'm scared the consequences will be so drastic I don't make that risk, because I'm in a state where I'm just content, and I'm just like, I don't need to push myself out the comfort zone, or out of the zone where, even though I'm not entirely happy, I'm just in a zone where I'm just like, you're earning enough money for me. I'm happy with I'm earning enough money and everything, and so I'm not gonna try and put. Even though I seem very like days a lot like just saying, yeah, I'm content. I'm this and that. I don't truly feel like that, but I've just learned to accept it. And then I feel like when I need to push myself out, or when something drastic has to change, then I will do it. But not when I'm in a good state of when I'm comfortable. Even though I'm not happy, I'm comfortable. If that makes any sense. Yeah. So I just stick to what I do until something comes up, unless I have to force the situation because something drastic has happened. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, it makes total sense. Chris Williamson speaks of this idea that things are sort of not bad enough for you to want to change, but not good enough for you to be happy where you are.
Yes.
You're in that threshold. It's almost as though if things were to go a little bit more wrong, it would be better, because
yes.
it would promulgate change. As a result of that feeling of, this is not where I want to be, you push forward. It's something that I have intimate experience with, is that feeling of being at a point where you go, fuck this, I'm not doing this anymore. But there was a point for a number of years up until then where things weren't quite bad enough for me to go, I've really got to do something here. Like, some change has to occur. And this is a problem that I think a lot of people encounter, is it's like they can feel this ambient feeling of discontent, as though it's not quite the way that they want things to be. They haven't got exactly the job they want, or their relationship's not exactly the way they'd like it to be. But it's not bad enough for them to take the perceived risk of going, well, let me stir things up a little bit. Let me have that conversation that might make this relationship a little bit better, or let me ask for that pay rise, whatever it is. We don't make that decision to act in those ways because, as you touched on there, we're scared of the risk. We're scared of things aren't bad enough for it to be perceived as worthwhile to take that risk. It's not as though, put it this way, when the chips are really down and you have nothing going for you, there is no risk in risk taking. Yeah. Because what can go wrong? You are not in a position to be holding anything up and saying, look what I've got. So as a result, you have that bravery to go, well, let's do something. If things are just about going the way you want them to go, then you're scared of doing that, because you can see the fact that your actions might directly result in you getting to a place you don't want to be. You might look and go, oh shit, if I do that and it doesn't go the way I want it to go, I might lose my girlfriend.
Yeah,
we might have that conversation that we might have a relationship that's rocky but could work, so long as we sit and have that honest talk. But I'm not going to do it, because if it doesn't work, I'm going to lose my girlfriend, and I don't want to lose her.
Yeah.
And as a result, things stay the same. You don't do anything because you don't want to do anything. It's too scary to. The interesting part I find with this so frequently is people talk about this idea of, I don't want to take a risk. I don't want to do something that might, you know, disrupt what it is that's going on at the moment. And in the process of doing that, they do just that. People don't seem to realise that not making a decision is a decision. If you don't do something, you have decided not to do something, and as a result, you've taken action on a thought that you have. It's important to know that if things are not the way you want them to be, and change is possible, that you need to take the risk. It's worth the risk. And it's important. You're giving your jumper a drink there as well.
Yeah.
It's important. No, seriously, it's important for us to realise that if you just stagnate and stay in the way I could best put this is that stagnation just totally rids you of any desire to push forward towards the things that you're trying to get towards, and you just stay in the same place and be still as discontent as you were 20 years ago. But the only problem is you've moved on 20 years. You don't have as much time. And I think this is the important part here, is if things are not going the way you want them to go, and you know that, and more specifically, you can see that they're not going to change unless something happens. You know, nothing changes if nothing changes, as they put it. If that's the case, then the best time to act is now, because what are you going to do otherwise? You're going to wait 4 years and you're still going to be having the same complaints about whatever it is, but you've had 4 years extra into the issue.
Yeah.
4 years ago, if you made the change, you wouldn't have the problem anymore.
Yeah.
So we lose time and we keep the worry because we're scared to act. And sort of bringing this back full circle, when things are not quite bad enough for us to want to change, but we know that we would be happier if we did change, we need to act, because otherwise you're going to lose time, and in losing your time, you're going to grow steadily more discontent with exactly the place that you find yourself.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Yeah, no, it makes 100% sense saying that if we don't force the change, if we really are unhappy, and we don't force the change, we are technically you're wasting time that you should have made. Like I say, if you say you're not happy and then 4 years down the road you finally do it, you could have saved yourself 4 years of pain or all of that if you just did it then.
Yeah.
And I think like I said, I 100% agree with that. It makes sense. You take yourself 4 years away to make the change. If you don't make the change, you're just going to continue the drought that you feel. And I think taking that drastic change, if you need to, when you're in that threshold of I'm not happy but I'm content and I'm not good enough to push forward and make a decision, I don't want to, and then you say no risk at all, because you don't want to lose what you have, but you're not happy with what you have. So you try and you think, it's not got that bad yet. But if it gets that bad and you don't because sometimes, definitely in some workplaces and stuff, you feel like a major event happens, you hope it changes, and then you wait and hope it changes, and you realise it doesn't change, and you just end up wasting time. And if you don't make that change and waste the time, it may take time to just do it, you are going to fall yourself into a more drought. And then when you finally did it, you were like, why did I take 4 years to finally do it? Then realise you're 10 times happier, you fixed a couple of things, and you wonder why you didn't do it. Because it's so much easier to take the risk when you got nothing to lose.
Yes.
When you got nothing to lose, when you finally realise that I've got nothing to lose here, I think that's the most dangerous person. Someone that has nothing to lose is one of the most dangerous people in the world. When you have nothing to lose, you can do anything, because you're like, what have I got? No one likes me. No one does this. No one does that. And you end up doing silly things because like I said, the most dangerous man is the one that has nothing to lose. And yeah.
Totally. And I think this touches on one specific key point that I'd like to broach here, of the fact that sometimes the best thing that can happen to us is the worst thing that could happen to us. Because for instance, I shall use an example from my own life. Last year, I went through a breakup that was necessary but very painful, and hurt a lot. But I was in a position at that point where that was exactly what needed to happen. I wasn't strong enough in those moments to end that relationship, and the other person was. And as a result of doing that, what at the time felt gut wrenching and so painful, and still has residual effects on that point. At the time, I felt as though this couldn't possibly have been a good thing. Now, over a year later, I look and I think, well, the amount that you have gained and cultivated within yourself as a result of that experience, as a result of feeling as though you've fallen to a point where you go, well, fuck it, we're back at square one again. What have we got to lose? I went through there was a brief period of my life where I seemed to experience a tremendous amount of loss around me. And I don't mean death loss. I mean, I lost a very good friend of mine, and I lost a girlfriend, and a friend group went, and I just lost quite a lot of people all in the space of about 4 or 5 months. And as a result of that, that sort of pulling of the rug of that breakup was a big time sort of, not a rock bottom moment, but certainly somewhere close to that, where I thought, I've lost a relationship because I worked too much, essentially, and what have I got to show for it? I've got all my work, but who's here? I feel totally alone. But as a result of that feeling, as a result of being in a place where I thought, well, fuck it, what have I got to lose? I might as well just go for it now. I might as well push on to something. Yeah. I lent into the better aspects of myself, and I changed about the ones that needed changing. The absolute sense of ego and arrogance that was in play within my psyche has been abolished to a point now where, I mean, I've got some work to do on the other end of that to sort of bring that closer to a stable line on the inverse. But my point there, in a roundabout sort of way, is that sometimes the best thing that can happen to us is exactly what we wish won't happen to us. It's the breakup that sets you free to go, well, actually, in terms of what I needed, that was exactly what I needed. I needed to be out of that relationship. And now, because the other person's gone, I am out of that relationship. Just because something feels as though it's totally gut-wrenching and hurtful does not mean that it's not good for you.
Yeah, I know. No, I've sometimes, even though you don't want it to happen, being at rock bottom, it ain't the worst thing in the world, because you can just reset. It's like a chance to reset, take all the lessons you've learned from the previous stuff and try and build again, up and build a new person, but also keep a bit of that old. I think it's called learning from life. Just learning from your mistakes.
There's a grand reset.
Like I said, it's like it's like a grand reset, and you're learning. That's the thing. It's like, you're young. You're gonna make mistakes. We're all gonna make mistakes. I'm only 20 or 20. I think 21. You're only 20. We've just got through not even 1/3 of our life, probably. We've only just got through the.
We've only just entered adulthood.
Adulthood, exactly. And we feel like we've learned so much already, even though we probably have absolutely no clue what's going on still.
No, probably not.
Probably not. We'll find out in the next few years. But I think it's not that. I think rock bottom, we don't want it to happen, but sometimes it happens, and sometimes it's the best thing it's probably sometimes the best thing that can happen, because you can reset and try and take all the bad things that you had inside yourself and just put them in a box and get away, even though there might still be there resentments of what that person was, because that is you as a person. You can change a few things and make yourself a little bit more different and vibrant and stuff. Like I felt I was, when I started feeling at rock bottom, I think there was a point where I felt rock bottom, where I just started work. My friends have all just gone to uni, and I felt I was alone. I definitely felt I didn't have any friends. All my friends are off to uni now, so I see them maybe only for 2 to 3 weeks in the whole year. And that was very, very tough for me, because I find it very, very hard to make friends. It's like I said, I've known them since I was 10 years old, so it felt like losing a part of, like, even though they're still around and all of that, but not seeing, because I used to see them all at least like once a week. Like they all felt like my brothers. They felt like like I said, I got to meet all their family and all that. They felt like my friends were my family, and I love them dearly. I love them all dearly because they made me a better person. I felt I became more confident. I think I became a better person with like manner. Because with I think I definitely I was a different person to what I was before I met them. That they said that I've come on leaps and bounds and say I've matured so much. And I don't see it, but a lot of people say you have changed, and I do have to thank them a lot, because I feel like they made there's a couple of things that, like I said, I used to, when I was younger, I didn't want to be associated with my autism.
Yeah.
But over time, they've helped me to learn to embrace it, and it's not a bad thing. And I've finally, over the last 2-3 years, finally content with it. It's just who I am as a person, and I'm happy with that. And it's finally, I feel acceptable, and like they like I said, they could have not decided to be my friend. They could have not, but they just liked me as the person I was, didn't think about my autism and all of that stuff, and they just saw me as any other person, which I love them for that. And they are literally my brothers. They are who I am as a person. They kind of shaped me to the person I am today, and same as my family and all of that. And I feel happier. And like I said, nowadays I think I'm more confident. I since definitely turning 18, I definitely think I've become more confident and started doing stuff, and I can do my own things now. And I talk to a lot more people, and I think I've made a few friends in the last few years, including you, my friend. And I would never have thought that for me when everyone left, and literally when I turned 18 and got that job, that was felt like the first grand reset of everything, because it felt like, right, you got a job now, your friends are all at uni, you're kind of alone because you don't know who you've got anymore, because you can't see them like once a week anymore. And it was kind of a good thing. I didn't see it at the start, but I felt it was a kind of a good thing in the end, because it made me realise it's kind of like a mini reset to see what happens. So I went to work, made a couple of friends at work. That's where I met Ian. I've become very fond of even though he's an absolute, yeah.
He's a nice bloke.
He's a nice bloke, very nice bloke, and I've become very fond of him. Meeting you, meeting Robin, or meeting all of you guys behind the bar, and me getting the job behind the bar as well. I'll come from that, and I think I've just become more of a confident person now, and I'm much more content and happy. And then, like I said, I'm now just in that cycle again, but I think I'm in a good cycle, and I'm happy. And to go back, like I said, if you told me when I was 18 where I'll be stood right now doing what I'm doing, I wouldn't believe you, because I wouldn't believe I could do that. But I think I've just grown in confidence. I'm not as shy, I'm not as nervous I used to be, but I'm also just a lot more. I feel free in a certain way, even though sometimes I have to do certain things I don't like, but that's life. You have to do things you don't like. You're not like in a dream world. Anyone can, even dream world. I wanted to be a footballer. I wanted to do certain things and earn a F ton of money, and it's just it's there. That's not going to happen, and you go back to primary school and you say, oh, I want to do this, you want to do that, and it's like, and then I just think about it and just laugh about it. It's like, yeah, it doesn't really happen half the time, but sometimes it does.
Hang on, let's tighten that up a little bit there. Why do you feel that you should laugh when you look back at times like that?
Because because I sometimes find how ridiculous it sounds. Now I look at how much work and how much effort or how much I because I see where I am now, and I feel like, well, it's not as easy as I want to do this, I want to do that. It's a lot of hard work, and sometimes like I had my massive knee surgery and it slows everything down, and I'm and then certain things happen, you get pushed out, or like certain things happen and it knocks your confidence, and then I go back to, I wish, like, because when you're a child you feel like life's easy. Back in primary and that, you think life is very simple and life's easy, which is why I laugh at it, because if I knew how difficult it was going to be as I got older, maybe I would have done a few things differently in primary school, but you didn't know that. And like I said, I look at that person I used to be when I'm little and I think, would I change anything? No, I don't think I would, because if I'm now happy with the person I am now, and yeah.
Would you change anything now?
Would I change anything now? I don't know I don't know what I could change of myself. I don't know what I want to change, and that's a thing. I don't know what I can't think on top of my head or top of what do I want to change? What am I not happy with in myself? Because I've got friends now that I talk to a lot more now. I've got a job, which some like young people struggle to get. I think jobs and the way that, just the way they say that young people don't want work. They don't get given work because every company just wants experience. And I generally believe to this day and age, it's not what you know, it's who you know. Like, I got my job because of my mum. My sister's boyfriend's about to get a job because of me. He's applied at many other jobs, but they all keep denying him for the same reason: not enough experience. How are you meant to get experience if you never get accepted in the first place? And it just feels like everyone just hires their mates, because they're like, if the manager knows, like, yeah, that's fine. I know their kid. Yeah, he's a good kid. Yeah, why not? It's just, I feel bad for anyone that's just, and then I don't want to go political, but it's just the way the government say that young people don't want work. They're not getting given work, and they're blaming us and starting taking all our stuff away. Like, I feel bad for the people under 21 that can't get universal credit now because of jobs and stuff, and saying it's because they don't want to work. They're trying to work, but they're getting denied every single place because they're all saying no for the same reason, and it really annoys me because they're just blaming us, even though it's not our fault. And it's silly. I think it is absolutely silly, and it's just, I genuinely believe it feels like if you could be the most qualified man in the world, and I genuinely believe if someone in charge of like a boss standard knows someone that's maybe only a little less qualified than them, but because they know him and they put in a good word saying he's a hard worker, he's this and that, they'll pick him over the more qualified employee. And I genuinely believe that because I'm seeing it. I'm seeing my mate get rejected for loads of jobs. He's applied for about 10, 15, all got rejected for the same reason. I come in and say, we're looking for this, and you've done it on the burger van and stuff, like a proper like full-time job on the in a kitchen, and because he's done burger van, I say to her, he's very good, he's this, that, very kind and that. He gets a chat and he got the job. All because I put the influence word saying he's a good person, he's very hard working, very nice, and all of that, and he's like, yeah, fine. It's just, yeah, it's little things like that. It's just how it's frustrating, and when they all start blaming us for things and saying, oh, they don't want this, they don't want that, it annoys me, because that's not the reason. It's not the reason. We do want work, we're trying to get jobs, but no one wants to employ the young people. Yeah.
Who's they? I know you said the government, but let's sharpen that.
A little
bit.
It's just, no, it's.
Do you think it's the government, or do you think it's people in general?
depends, really. I think it probably is. It probably is the employer, but then the employer will say that. But then the government will say, "Oh, over 2 million young people aren't in work," and they'll say it's their fault. They don't want to work, even though the employer keeps rejecting us. Does that make sense?
Do you think it's the case for all 2 million though? Because as someone who, I mean, you will know this. We're both in this age bracket. I know a lot of people, be it by proxy or personally, who are totally unmotivated and have no intention of doing a great deal.
I know, yeah.
And calling back to sort of the same principle that we've been talking about, but in a positive way for some people, they feel as though they don't have control, and that is a good thing because they can go, oh, what am I supposed to do? And similar to a topic we spoke about last time we were on here, sort of hide behind that, where it's like, oh, well, they're not choosing me. What am I supposed to do? I think, I see what you're saying, but I don't think you could say for a lot of people that is the case. I think a lot of people are hiding behind excuses. And this happens with everything, doesn't it? It was where you'll have people who have that perspective where it's like, well, I just can't get it. Like there's a problem here that is I am the victim of. Yeah. And then as a result, you'll have people that will jump behind that who it's not occurring to, but who fall into the particular demographic where they can say that is happening. How many people do you think are actually, if you say 2 million, so the statistic is 2 million people?
Yeah, it's 2 million people. How many people
would you put a majority on my perspective here or on your perspective here?
I'd say it is probably close to, like 2 million probably are young people out and employed. I'd say probably I think it is probably 50-50 how many people do want to work and who do not want to work. I probably would say a million, because you don't know how many people want to hide behind the mask and how bad it is. But I think it's more the frustration that they're saying, oh, it's 2 million, even though it isn't exactly 2. It ain't.
Well, just for the sake of the point.
Yeah. Yeah, 50-50, I'd say. I think 50-50. People want jobs. Some 50% want jobs, probably 50% don't, because they like to hide behind everything else. They like to hide behind their parents. They like to hide behind this, and they think they can live off people, live off the government and stuff, which it kind of frustrates me. But it's for the people that need it, or for the people that are truly struggling and they can't work. The living proof of just, if they literally can't work, when they're taking stuff away from them, or like any sort of help to help them, even though they can't, because there's 100% of people who just, I don't want to work, I just want to live off people. Those are the people, but because there are some people like that, it feels like everyone else gets punished for those people. Because, if that makes any sense, it feels like the small minority that's not doing their bit and just does want the job and all of that are knocking everyone else down, because they're thinking, okay, it must just be that demographic. Let's just kind of punish that whole demographic because they don't want to work, because of a small minority of probably 500,000 people saying they don't want to work. So they think, okay, must be everyone, or because they can't just say no to them and not say no to everyone else. So they just take the whole demographic and think, right, we're gonna make a few changes, saying you can't have this anymore unless you get a job and all of that, and to try and force people to do it. So the people that can't work are struggling even more now because of the small minority.
I'm gonna broach a point, and you're more than welcome. In fact, I urge you to debate me on this.
All right, go on then.
I think we have an epidemic of weakness in the world, particularly in the young age. I think there are a lot of people who are totally uninterested in actually going out and getting what's theirs. And I think the point we should go into on this is whether that is their fault or whether the system has been set up in a way that puts someone in that position. But for the sake of the point, I personally believe that a lot of people are hiding behind just excuses, essentially. I think a lot of people are putting themselves in a position where they go, not consciously by any stretch, but they are in a position where they can see an advantage to doing less, and as a result, they are doing less. What's your opinion there?
No, I do understand what you mean. Saying people doing less because they don't. They're probably thinking they're in a comfortable position, not doing that. They feel like they're probably thinking, well, I've got a house, I'm living with my parents, and I've got nothing to lose. And why should I work if I've got a house? I've got this. I don't have to pay for anything. It's all of that. So they feel they're comfortable. So they probably are, like I said, weak-minded, and they probably struggle. They struggle to want to do it because they're comfortable, and I think sometimes it's the parents. I think that maybe puts the weakness into the child by not making them do it, like not saying to them maybe when they get old enough, saying you've got to get a job now, try and get a job, because if you don't, we're going to start charging rent and stuff. But this is the problem. I think people don't want, because they feel like they're going to think to themselves, the parents might kick them out because they're their child. So they feel like they don't have to do it because they're thinking they won't kick me out if I don't want to get a job. I don't see it. They feel comfortable. They're like, and they're just content of what they're doing because they're like, I'm safe. When you're in a safe bubble, you feel like there's no consequences for yourself anymore, and you're just happy and you're just like, yep, I can do what I want and stuff. For me, when I wanted to start getting a job so I can buy my own things and stuff like that and do my own things and socialise and stuff. And nowadays, I barely, I think the only thing my mum really buys me now is just the weekly shop so I can eat. I think that's basic, and sometimes when we go out for like a restaurant or something, go out for a meal. And even then, I sometimes offer to pay a little bit as well. And it rarely, like I said, my dad, like when I first turned 18, my dad was buying all my drinks and stuff and all of that. We don't do that anymore. It's basically I'm basically just using my own money. The only thing like I said, I pay my rent, I pay rent and all of that. And I barely, I now don't really live off my mum and dad anymore. Like there's only a few things they buy for me now. Just the essentials of just living, because they're still my mum and dad, they still want to protect me and everything like that. And I think that also started giving me a bit of independence, and I actually kind of enjoyed that independence of I can buy what I want, I think this comes into of how happy I am, I won't say I'm happy, I'm just, like I said, content again. And the feeling when you get your first paycheck was one of the best feelings I ever had. I was like, oh my god, look how much money I've got. It was so funny. It was just like, I've got like £800 in my account. What the And then you go and realise that's actually quite a bit of money. Because then you go and look at stuff and say, oh, it's only 70 quid, it's only this and that, and I've got 800. You don't realise how much, and like I said, you go, I enjoy the thrill of getting paid, which is why I work, because I like my lifestyle. Because if I don't go to work, I can't because for me working and getting money means I can socialise. And if I don't, because if I didn't work, I wouldn't socialise, I'd be stuck in my room, I wouldn't do anything, and I'd just be lazy. And I think that's what going back to what those people, maybe they're lonely, or maybe they don't want to do anything because they don't have to, because maybe they haven't got any friends, maybe they're just weak, or there's no risk for them and they don't want to push themselves outside their comfort zone, so they will just live off their parents and not want to work, and they're just, maybe they are weak-minded, or maybe they're content and comfortable even though it's not life. That's not how life works. I would have loved to just live off my parents. Everyone in the world, I wouldn't have to do anything. Imagine my mum just gave me £1,000 a month just to live for just here's £1,000 a month, spend it what you like, that's all you're getting. I'll still pay for your weekly food and stuff and that, but that's just for you. There's £1,000 a month. You don't have to work for it, you don't have to do anything. There's your £1,000, and I'll give you £1,000 each month for you. That'll be your like spending money. You wouldn't want to do anything. You wouldn't want, no, you generally wouldn't. You just feel comfortable, you feel safe, and you got a house, you got food, and you go and do whatever you like. And that's not being an adult. That's not life. That's just poncing. That's just not what we're kind of built for. This is not what you should be doing, because you're just working. I think is character building, because it tells you who you are as a person and where you come from and what you're trying to do, and it makes you more of a man, a respectable person, or a respectable lady, or just a respectable person. Because if he's got a job, they're thinking, right, he knows what he's doing, even though he's happy, he's doing the right thing, he's earning his own money, he's not living off anyone. And I think it makes you also, when you have your own money, you can treat people's other things, and that makes me feel good. When I buy stuff for other people, saying, all right, I'll do this, it gives me like a nice feeling inside, because it means I've earned this money and I can give to the people I love. And if you're just living off someone, or just you don't get any sort of warm fuzzy feeling. You're just, oh, thanks, man, and then go and do what you like, and you end up just sitting there, and are you actually happy? And you're probably thinking, oh yeah, you're happy, but deep down, I really hope deep down these people probably think, is it really what I want to do? But because then there's no risk. If there's no risk, if maybe their parents just said to them, or just to say, we're going to kick you out if you don't get a job, generally like fearing to them, maybe they would, because when you're in a dangerous situation, when your feet are against the ropes, you will force a change. And I think sometimes in these people, we have to kind of force a change, even though we don't want to, even though it's harsh, but life's harsh. You never know what's going to happen. Even though it is, like, it sounds really cruel to say, if you don't get a job, you're out, you need to start paying rent and stuff like that. Sometimes that's what I feel like. It makes it sound really mean and cruel. But sometimes I feel like some of these people just need to kick up the arse, just to tell them, that's not right. That's not life. You need to wake up. Because if you don't wake up, what's going to happen when they're not here? You're going to live off someone else? No. You think anyone else is just going to give you £1,000 a month? Or like tell you you're amazing? And if you just went up to like, whoever's like your next family member or guardian and stuff, and say, can I have £1,000? They're probably just laughing, go like, what? Earn your own money. That's what I would say. Earn your own money. And how are you going to find someone to actually like care for you? Or like, a lot of like partners, they like stability. They like to know that they're in a good place, they're earning a good bit of money, or like you don't have to be the richest man in the world, but at least have some stability. Good luck trying to find a girlfriend if you don't have a job or you don't have any sort of stability. And everyone wants to feel stable. Everyone wants to feel just happy. They just want to feel like, okay, if I'm with him, I know I've got a chance of being in a house or doing that or doing this and feeling happy or like just stable. Good luck doing that if you haven't got a job. Because a lot of people will think, definitely like the parents of that child, or thinking, what you're doing, they're not stable, they're not, and you could love them and stuff and think, oh, it's all pieces and all, you could just, but deep down, if you love them that much, it's like, but surely you want to feel stable, surely you want to feel like you're safe. If you're not safe, why are you doing it? It's like, yeah, if that makes any sense to you.
This epidemic of weakness comes without grit, but it also comes without information. Yeah. I think a lot of people have not been told the virtues of having good morals, of being someone who works for things, of being someone who is in a position to provide, as you put it. I think it's very important that we open up a conversation about the fact that it's not just about, as you say in that example, if you were to be given money. It's about what you get as a result of earning things, and people have not been told this enough. I think a lot of young people are in a position where they don't understand that the mental fortitude and essentially the level of happiness that you're afforded as a result of working towards things is so tremendous and so worthwhile that you can't just sit around. You need to go and do something. You need to find something that makes you feel as though you can be the parent that provides, or the strong foundation within a relationship. You need to put yourself in a position where you can provide that for people and provide that for yourself. And the way that you get that is through doing something that puts you out. And within that is that sense of fulfillment that is so critical to existence.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd like. Yeah, it is literally. Yeah, it is literally that, isn't it? It's the fulfillment. Like as I say, the feeling you get when you provide, like you buy stuff for people, you treat people. It's a very weird, nice feeling. I love when I can go and buy people pints, saying, "All right, here's a drink, here's this." It's a very weird, thrilling feeling of. It's a lovely feeling when you can treat people, because it means I'm a good person. I can provide. I can do this. I can do that, and it makes me feel so much. Just it's a really weird, fuzzy feeling, and it's brilliant. And it's like it means I'm doing the right thing. I'm not sitting around waiting for something to happen. Like I said, my mum got me my first job at the pub, and I was like, because I didn't want to work. No, I generally didn't want to work. I was effing terrified. I was like, oh, I don't want to do it. No, I don't want to do it. And I just remember my mum coming home and just saying, oh, I got you an interview at the pub. I was like, well, thanks, you didn't tell me. Because that was the best approach with me. Don't tell me anything, just tell me, oh, you got this. So I went up, did one shift, and never left. And it was really funny. I was having a chat with my boss, and he said, how long did because she knew all about my autism, because she knew my mum and dad for years. And she said, and I made a joke saying, how long do you think I would actually how long, I said it a few weeks ago, did you think I'd last? She said no. She thought I'd be gone after a couple of weeks. But she was very surprised. She was how committed I was and how long I lasted. And like I said, what I love about the best part of that workplace is you can have a joke with people. Some things are a bit different, and I would want a few changes and stuff, but overall, like, the people there, they're all nice and all laughable people, and you can have a joke with, and it makes it like a nice atmosphere. Like I said, like we're all good people. You can have a laugh with people and stuff, which is nice. And yeah, going back to what I was saying. What was I saying?
I want to put you in the direction. I want to burrow into that point of generosity, and why it's so important that people are aware of the fact that when you look at hard work on the surface value of it, you look and go, oh, fuck that, that's hard. I don't want to do that. It is critical that people are aware of the fact that feelings like this is something that I've very pleasantly, I was put in a position. I was given a bit of money following a passing of a loved one, and that put me in a position where I could start adding to that myself. And as a result of that, I've gained a nice little nest egg. And the feeling, which I had never experienced before, and I know it's slightly contradictory given the fact we just said about being given $1,000, and that's exactly what happened. But the point I'm going to sort of navigate here quickly is I am now in a position where, as a result of that act of kindness, I pushed on and put more money into that, and as a result, I'm really not worrying about money, and that's a wonderful feeling. It's such a nice feeling to not feel, shit, is there something, I had £600 expenditure sitting to my left here, not to worry. All of the stuff in it, this stuff that's in this room has cost me well over $1,000 in the last few months. I mean, this whole thing has cost way more than that. But that's not even the point itself. Or I suppose in some senses it is. I have been able to afford myself the luxury of going, you need this because this is what's important to you. There you go, have it. And this was something that I noticed when I took my sister out for her birthday, the feeling more saliently of being able to say to someone, oh, do you want that? And they go, yeah, and giving it to them, that is wonderful. That's one of my favourite feelings on the planet. I crave that feeling. I will routinely buy people things because I love that feeling. I love the idea of knowing that I am in a position where I can make someone else's life happier.
Yeah.
And it's not even, you can take the materialistic element out of it because it's not that. It's the gesture. It's the idea of, you know, when you're up at the club going, put a pint in for him. Like there is a nice solidarity in knowing that you are in a position to provide for someone. And particularly as men, but this is across the board, this is women involved too.
Yeah.
Men need that more than anyone because that's our inherent state.
Yeah.
We are providers. It's what we are genetically hardwired to do. It's the behaviour that we are supposed to enforce. If you're not in a position to do that, you are missing a fundamental aspect of life. And you will miss that aspect of life if, as the aforementioned point goes, you aren't aware of how good it feels to be a provider. And you just look at, but I don't want to go to work. I'll stay at home, and I do have a house here, and my mum will pay for the food, and dad will do the work, and don't worry about it. You're not going to have any money in your pocket now, and you're definitely not going to have any in a few years' time when you really need it. And this is something that I shall bang the drum on and shout from the rooftops for a long time, for the rest of my life, is working at something. And as a result, being able to help other people and provide for other people is, in my opinion, the essence of life. It's the reason why we're here.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. Providing it is, like I said, it's the way things happen. We're genetically hardwired. We feel like, as the men, nowadays, women as well. Men and women, we want to provide. The feeling for us to provide is a very weird and amazing feeling. To know that I can buy my dad a drink, buy my sister a drink, buy my little sister gifts and stuff, when it's a lovely feeling because it means I'm doing the right thing. I'm not that person that just sits down and just lives off people. I'm earning my own money so I can give my family what they want or what they deserve because of what they've done helping me. It feels like when I started earning money, I felt like I was finally paying back everyone for the way they raised me, for the way they made me as a person. It felt nice to I was finally paying them back for it. And I'm finally making my worth. It's an incredible it's an incredible feeling. It makes you feel empowered. Is it empowered? Yeah, empowered. Thinking I'm doing this, and I think it's also a great thing because it means when you finally, maybe if you move in with someone or be got a girlfriend and all of that, and you move in with them and stuff, and knowing that you can provide and knowing that you can give them the world, give them what they deserve, it's an incredible feeling because you know that you're doing the right thing. You're making them feel happy, stable, and all of that. Because you're working, and this is why you work. You work to provide.
Yeah.
You can say how much you hate your job and all of that. In the back of my mind, every time I go into work, every time I go I don't like this, I really just don't like it. I always have to think to myself, I have to provide. I have to. Because if I stop doing this, how am I going to provide? How am I going to keep that? Because I genuinely think if I stop working because I'm not providing, I think that will make me depressed.
It will.
I think that sort of drug or hormone or some sort of drug to provide, if that goes away, I feel like a lot of your happiness goes away. You dig yourself into a hole again and you try and get yourself out of it, but because you don't have a job or you don't have that, it's very hard to sometimes find yourself to get out of the hole. Because I feel like having a job, I think, is a great start to getting yourself back out of the hole if you do lose your job or something bad happens and you get redundant, like COVID and stuff. That was just when people were losing their jobs, mean they lost their way to provide. and I sometimes wish for me, I would have loved to know how it was to be an adult in that world.
What, during COVID?
During COVID. How much different it... Because for us, as we were teenagers. We were 16... It was before our time, yeah. 16, 15-year-olds. All we were doing was playing Minecraft and just literally gaming 24/7 for about 6 months. It was in an interesting way, COVID was kind of one of my favourite periods of all time.
COVID was a very strange period of time. COVID was just GTA 5 and...
Yes, it was. It was just video game. It was generally... It was... In other words...
It's awful but wonderful.
Awful and wonderful. And technically, the video game industry blew up more than anything in that COVID time. And people playing video games like Xbox and all that, they earn more money than they've ever earned in existence. Because everyone... not even people that game normally... started gaming because it was a thing to do, because there was nothing else to do. It was entertainment.
Fuck all else to do.
Exactly.
Do you know, I'm glad you've brought COVID into the equation here, because I think on the point of the lack of virtuous morals that we're touching on, that people don't have as a result of, well, I should say the point. Do you think that is a result of COVID?
The weakness, or...
Yeah.
Yeah, the weak...
Yeah, that like fever dream in which obligations and life just went away. What was there to do? What did you need to do in COVID? Even
Nothing.
Look at it this way. Even as a kid, you've still got an obligation. You need to go to school.
Yeah, school stops.
You've still got to do something. There's still a routine in play. And when you actually... This is by design, and I would argue to a partial extent malignantly... School is designed to replicate the workplace. If you look at the amount of time you spend in school and the routine... Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's fine.
Don't worry about it.
That's all right.
If you look at the amount of time that you spend in school and the way that it is spent, it's supposed to replicate the workplace. That's the idea.
Yeah.
And as a result of that, COVID was a time when you didn't even have that. You had 2 years where it was either nothing or basically nothing. And I'm not even going to put online school into this because no one did it.
No, online schooling was the biggest. They tried to, but what people would do was just block their cameras and just do something else.
Go to sleep.
That's
what I used to do. I used to put it on and then go back to sleep.
Yeah.
Or just not do it. And
no one did
I remember going back to school and they had a meeting. It was, you know, when you went in and then we had to go back out again.
Yes, yeah.
The first time we went back into school, I remember them having a meeting of who had actually done work in the last 6 months. Who had done work. Not who had done enough work, who had done work. And there were loads of people that hadn't done anything at all.
Yeah.
To bring it back to the point in question, I think COVID has had there's been a massive hangover on the ethics and virtues of the young person as a result of that period of time.
Yeah.
But, and this is something that fascinates me, I'm infatuated with the way that the mind works on this point. Some people haven't stayed that way. COVID was the villain arc before I became villainous. It was like all the damage was done in COVID.
Your vigilante arc.
Yeah. It was COVID was where it all went wrong for me.
Yeah.
I went into COVID sprightly and looking reasonably well, and came out of it.
I saw the hair.
It wasn't just the hair, mate. It was the entire mentality alongside the physicality. I was in a bad way. And some people have come out of that and gone, well, I might have been doing nothing for the last 2 years, but life's not going to carry on this way, so I guess we best start doing something now. But other people, that has not happened. Now, me and my dad lock horns on this quite consistently on the point of empathy, or lack thereof in his instance, when it comes to sort of why people do the things that they do. I think for a lot of people, the age bracket we're talking about were affected at a particularly bad time. If you're affected, if you have 2 years of your socialising gone when you're 12 or when you're 14, like right in that critical part, that's a real issue. And I think that's what's happening now. I think you've got a lot of people now who are coming to the age of work. I mean, what COVID was 5 years ago.
5 years ago, I was 15 at the time.
COVID was, well, let's say COVID lockdown was 4 years ago.
Yeah, 4 years, yeah. It was about 16.
So if you were someone who went into COVID, at 14, you had 2 years lockdown, or well...
It was about it's about, I think it was a year and a half, something like that. I don't know.
If you went into COVID at 14 in 2020 and you came out at 16 after lockdown, and then you've got another, now you're getting close enough to our age, you spent a key period of your growth not doing anything, not growing, not actually socialising, and now you're in the age bracket where you've got to go and socialise. You need to go and do things, and you weren't even in an age bracket where you could go, oh, well, I already had a job, but it's just gone remote, so I'll just stay remote. You didn't have that because you weren't there working at that time. I think the important thing for people to start becoming aware of as we get out of... Because I still think we're in COVID in some respects. I don't think we're not quite out of the stratosphere yet.
Yeah.
I think there's still... given the magnitude of something like COVID, even though the actual sort of fatality wasn't horrific, the mental ailments that have followed have been horrific, and we're still in the stage where people are sort of the hangover. That's the best way it can be described.
Yeah, definitely.
I think we're starting to get into a stage where you can go, right, we've got a number of years past COVID now, and people are starting to sort of fall out the other way of that. I would be interested to see what you think is the sort of... How shall I word this? We've identified the fact that the North Star here that people need to be aware of is the fact that within work, be it your own personal endeavours or your, going to work, that is something you need to do. That is something that's critical. How do you think you can get that message across to people where they don't feel like they're being attacked? Because I think that is a big part of this. I think a lot of people, young people particularly, because we're fragile, think when someone says, go get a job, what are you doing? Why are you not doing anything? They feel attacked, and as a result, they stay inwards and they don't do what you want them to do. How do you think you can sort of
tell them without...
get around that? Because you say, and I totally agree when you say you need to kick up the arse. That is what you need. But do you need a kick up the arse, or do you need a rub on the shoulder?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Because how do you say it to them? How do you tell them that you need to kind of do this without scaring them or saying, oh, this and that? It's difficult. I'm just saying from what my parents did, or they told me. Like, you're 18, get your job and start earning money. It was like, start doing this, start doing that, and you'll be thankful. Every child's different. Some things work, some things don't. But I don't know how you tell someone they need to kind of figure it out without, because when you're at rock bottom, it's easy to force change, and sometimes I feel like you have to put them at rock bottom to force the change.
Would you say that the metaphorical rock bottom here isn't one of... How do I put this? For me, when I felt as though I was at the lowest point I'd been, I did still have a house.
Yeah.
I did still have a family. I did still have these things. These people are in the same position, but they don't feel like they're at rock bottom because they've got a house, because they've got a family.
Maybe, no, I think for me, for rock bottom is homeless.
So, where would you take this then? Because I should give my verdict on this, but I think we're going to agree on what is needed here. How do you navigate that situation?
It's hard to navigate it because you want people to work, you want people to earn a living and stuff. But how do you force them to do it? Because if they don't do it, when are they going to do it?
Yeah.
Are you just gonna wait until their parents die? Is that when you're gonna finally do it? When you're 60, 70? When you've got no pension, you've got nothing? Are you just gonna live on food banks and stuff?
And you will be homeless.
And you will be homeless.
Yeah.
So tell them at a young age, when they've got time to change, do it. You don't, because if you leave it too late and you just accept your child, oh, he's never gonna get a job and that. What's gonna happen when you're gone?
Yeah.
When you're 60, and you're terrified to think that if you have anything in your pension for your, or like in your life savings, or like for your child after you die, do you really want to give them the money? Did they really earn it? Because I wouldn't want to. If my child never worked or never did this, he's probably not going to be a good person. If I give him money, what is he going to spend it on? Yeah. I'd be terrified because he's never had a job. He's never had that. Is he going to just spend on drugs? I don't think I'd want to give my child a cent, because I know he's my child, but I feel like there's other people in my family that will take the money and actually use it properly than someone that's basically never had a job. He's never done that. He's been lazy. He's been living off of people. And I think the younger you do it, like 18, 20, the younger you do it, the better, the quicker the more time they've got to figure it out. Because if you leave it too late, you're just... Like I said, my dad, he got kicked out when he was 14 years old.
Really?
So he had to figure it out. He generally had to figure it out.
So where was your dad then?
So he got kicked out at 14. He was basically homeless. He was everything. No. He was homeless. He basically was forced to get a job at 14. Basically, he had to figure. My dad, he had a very rough upbringing, and where he is now is unbelievable. He struggled in school. He did all of that. And then when he met my mum, that changed him. My mum saved my dad, and there's no doubt about that. My dad's half the person he is. He finally made that change when he met my mum, because he realised he loved my mum so much he was willing to change himself. So he started, and because I was born around the same time as well, so he was like, do you want to live with us with the child and everything? So he changed everything. He got into tarmac, and he's now got a level of a degree in that field now. And he had nothing when he was 14. And my dad is one of the most down-to-earth, you've seen it, one of the most down-to-earth, lovely people you'll ever meet.
Your dad is a paragon of kindness.
Yes.
He's a very, very strong example of what a nice person is.
Yes, and he loves his children dearly. He loves us all dearly. He'll do anything to protect us. But he also has that type of thing to know that you can't get given everything. And I think that's why I love the way he, I understand why he did what he did. Like saying, you need to get a job and stuff. And he does it because he knows he will never leave me without. Because he never ever wants, when he got kicked out, he never wants his children to ever suffer what he did, because it was wrong. And like I said, why we got a house and stuff, but he wanted to make sure this is adult life. Get a job, do this, do that, and it's how life is. And I talked to my dad a lot about it and saying, how do you do it? How do you consistently just go to work and stuff and just do the same thing again and then? And he just said to me, that's life. You hate your job and everything, but you just do it because you love your family and provide your family. My dad goes to work because he loves us all and he wants to continue to provide. And my dad literally is, like I said, he's the most down to earth, loving person, and everyone I ever speak to, all it is just praise my dad. He's such a lovely man.
Yeah, he's a great bloke.
Yeah, and he's very funny, very down to earth. And it's me to my dad. I love him very much. He literally means the world to me. An absolute, how you go from nothing to you can change. And he finally just said, I'm not throwing away this as well. He's like, no, I'm gonna do it. So he changed everything, and he's, like I said, he's an inspiration to me. He generally is just for everything I want to be in a person. I want to be known as that person that, it's Alex. Everyone knows Alex. He's a good bloke, and my mum says to me most of the time, everyone that goes up say, oh, your son's really nice, he's very kind and all of that. They all say that. So I'm kind of getting it a little bit, and good. Hopefully everyone meets me and go like, how do you know who I am? Oh, mum just talks praise about you. It's like, oh, nice. I'm not even kidding. I literally go up and say, do I know you? But they know me. which is quite funny because every time I've gone shopping with my dad before, and he just runs into random people, like, "Who are you? How do you know him?" It's like one of those people. Everyone knows Mathew. Everyone knows my dad. Everyone if you go around Walter and Bury, I generally think about 25% of people know who my dad is.
Yeah, I'd wager probably about that.
Yeah, about that. 25% of people probably know who my dad is. Back to what we're saying about what was I saying before I got distracted?
I want to take this in the direction, or sort of tie this back together with what it is we were talking about previously.
Yeah.
That now you've held a lot of praise towards your dad, and rightly so. He deserves it. But what you're touching on there is essentially the point we were at of you're not saying that the love you have for your dad is embedded in the amount of money he has or what it is that he's done in terms of his career. You're saying it is embedded in who he is because of that.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that he's put himself in a position where he can provide for you.
Yeah.
That's the thing that's important, is that the moral aspect of it. What I do want to go into, though, just sort of as we clear that point out and press forwards, do you think you have to hate your job to do that?
I think so.
I don't.
Are you okay?
I think. Sorry.
That's absolutely fine.
I think hate, and let me use this example, right? The podcast keeps me busy a lot longer than a lot of people, and in terms of the amount of work that I'm doing on it, it's probably roughly equivalent. Not to it won't be
near
quite a full-time job, but it's not far off. But I love this. Like, this is I even though I have as much anxiety and fear and all of the shit that comes with it, I love this.
I know.
And this is what I want to do. So I wouldn't say that it's a obligation for you to hate what it is that you do.
Yeah.
But I would say it's an obligation as to actually achieve. You can't achieve a hard goal without adversity. And I think adversity doesn't necessarily have to be grueling. It just has to be asking. As in, like with this asks that I'm committed. It asks that I put myself forward. It asks that I, as someone who is inherently anxious and doesn't want to be on a camera talking to people, puts himself on a camera and talks to someone. I know. It asks that of me. And as a result of that, in due course, I will have a product of, look what you did even when you didn't want to. I think that's the more important part of going, I might not want to do that, or I might not want to do it that way, but I do want to be the provider. I do want to have the prestige of being a good person. I do want those things. I think there's a blissful relationship between doing something that you don't want to do and the respect and good feeling that you get as a result of doing that. And I'm not talking about this sort of cliche way of apply yourself and create discipline within your mind, and as a result you'll feel well. No, it's deeper than that. It's a feeling of... Have you ever seen a movie called 8 Mile?
No, I think I've heard of it.
It's right. It's here.
Oh,
right.
No.
So you see, do you know who that bloke is?
He looks like Eminem, but
that is Eminem.
No, I was going to say
that's Eminem. Now, 8 Mile is a movie basically about Eminem as he was growing up.
Oh, okay.
And for yourself and for listeners who haven't seen this movie, he starts off. He's an aspiring rapper because it's about him.
Yeah.
And he starts off the movie. He starts the first rap battle he does. He gets booed off stage because he doesn't. He chokes. He doesn't say anything. Yeah. And over the course of the movie, he experiences so much shit. He's from a trailer park. He's got fuck all money. His mum and he has an awful relationship with his mum. He's got a girlfriend who he breaks up with, and loads of shit goes on. And over the course of the movie, things get worse and worse and worse until toward the end of the movie, he gets back on stage after the fear of... At the start, when he choked and got booed off stage, he gets back on the stage, and after making light work of a few people on his way to the rap battle final. He gets to the final and he battles against someone who put a gun to his face the night before and said that he was going to kill him. Now, he absolutely blows him out of the water and blows him away. And essentially it ends happily ever after. He wins the battle and he gets the acclaim. And from that point on, the final sort of thing, Lose Yourself, the track Lose Yourself starts playing. Yeah. Which essentially, he made that as he was doing that movie. Okay. But it basically sort of housed to the fact that was like the start of when things were starting to pick up for him. Yeah. The reason I use that example is because it is the only movie that gives me chills every time I watch the final scene. And the reason why it gives me chills is because he does so unbelievably well to combine all of his pain and all of his hardship into a form of a real impressive performance that it makes me realise how much value there is in enduring difficulty for that final piece, for that final time when you get on the stage and you put all of it out there. I think there's a real sort of like
comfort, or is it just, I
don't know, I can't think of the word, just like beautiful, like romantic in a way where you go, all of that shit comes together into a place where you finally come out the other end and go, look what I did, look who I am as a result of I was on the streets at 14 and look, now I can put myself in a position where I can provide for my family and I'm a good person, you know. And I think, I don't know, I sort of don't have a through point here as much as just voicing a passion, that I think it's lovely to know that within our hard efforts there will be a very valuable product. And I think people, unfortunately, are missing that progressively more and more consistently now, because they just don't know. They don't know how good it is to come out of the other side of shit. You know?
It's character building.
Yeah.
It's character building to go through, sometimes going through the shit of, like, if you've had a bad, like, childhood or something like that, it makes you a person, because you know what it... I think the best people are the people that know that when they had nothing, because they know how lucky they are. The people that are born into rich and stuff don't truly know how bad it is for the people, will never truly know how bad it is for the people that have nothing.
Yes.
And...
very true.
And, yeah, and I feel like all the people that had nothing, I some people, people with lots of money are probably nice people, but I feel like the people that have nothing and then get everything are some of the most down-to-earth people, because they know what it's like. And
I can give you an example just before you run with the point. Steve. Yeah, exactly. Steve's exactly that. Steve had nothing.
He had nothing.
And now he's very well off, and he's a lovely person.
Yeah, exactly. And that is the thing. Yeah, and I feel like because the people, like I said, the people that have nothing and then gain everything or get the money and finally can provide, they're some of the most down to earth people, because they know what it's like. And then when they see people that have less money, they know what it's like to be in them, because they've been in their position, and when you finally get on the other side and you finally, I've got all this money, but even though it's nice to have all the money, it hasn't changed me as a person, because I know it could be gone in an instant, because I know what it was like before. And I think it makes us just incredible people. Yeah. And the best people are the most down-to-earth people with money, because the people who've got a reason to not be down to earth and still are. Exactly. Because if you're rich with money, you can be an absolute... Yeah.
Yeah, you've got license to be in some respects. You shouldn't. Like, you don't get a free pass to be that way.
Or brag my money around, like...
But you can understand why someone is when they're in that position. Yeah. I think Jordan Peterson talks about the fact that people say they're virtuous when they don't sleep around. But he says, well, if you haven't got a harem of girls following you at all times, then you're not being virtuous, because you don't have the choice. So you're not choosing to be good, you're obliged to be good, because you don't have the choice. If you've got a girlfriend and you say, oh well, look how loyal I am to my girlfriend, and no other woman wants you, and you're not being tempted, well, you're not, in the same respect, you're not being virtuous, because you're not having temptation be in play. And it's the same thing there, where it's like, if you have something like money that quite often affords people license to be a prick, and you're not, That says a lot about you. And I think I'd be interested, just to round this out, what you think about this phrase, money is the root of all evil. Because a point I'd sort of like to attach to that is I personally don't think money actually is any... I don't think money itself is anything. I think when people say that money is the root of all evil, or that money is malignant in whatever sense, I don't think that's the case. I think money makes what you are more evident. If you're a nice person and you get money, I think you're probably gonna become a nicer person. I think if you're someone who's generous and then you're afforded more money to be generous, I think you're more likely to just be more generous. I think if you're someone who's a twat and then you get money, you could quite possibly and quite often would become more of a twat.
Yeah, definitely.
What do you think? What's your perspective on how money influences people?
Depends where you get it from. It depends how you got it.
Good point.
If you're given to it rich and you don't know what it was like to have nothing, I think you are probably got more. You might not be, but I feel like 50% more people probably are arseholes if they're born rich, because they don't know what it's like. They just got money in their hand, they can spend what they like, and they got that
Out of touch.
They're out of touch with what real life is, and they're just in their own fantasy world of I've got money to do what I want, and it's not. They're just one of the lucky 10% or 5% that have that type of thing, and like I said, what we were saying with people with no money, they then get money, they're still the same person because they know what it's like, and I think the people that know what it's like for the other people just make better people, and then. So if you're not born into rich, and you build into rich, I think it's more character building. It's character building of knowing you deserve it. When you earn that much money and you earn, then you are rich and stuff. You know you deserved it because you bought yourself into that point where you could provide your family, set up life-saving stuff to give to your kids and stuff, and you basically can give their life a better start to what you had. It means you've done your job as a provider, but as long as you teach them, or like say I didn't have everything as little, try and tell them this is not how life is, this is not real life.
It's the lesson you've
got to teach them. If maybe people are a bit, like I say, if you're like let's say you're poor and stuff, but you're rich and now you're really rich, you need to imprint it all of your children from father to son or father to daughter. Tell them that you've got money, I've got money, you've got money. But that's not the real world. The quicker you teach them it's not the real world, the better people they are. And I think, like I said, I know it's around like Prince William. He seems like a very down-to-earth, funny bloke, and I think it's because the way his his mother, I think it's because his mum was very down-to-earth and said, I'm going to raise my children the way I want to raise my children. And I think that probably came down into William the way he is. Because he's very down-to-earth, he seems like just a real person. I don't, like... He feels a bit different to all the other royal family members, you know what I mean? Like, it was really fun. I was watching TNT and when PSG faced Aston Villa in the semi, and he's doing punchy about see how their press are and stuff. He knows his football stuff. He was doing better than he should take over from Rio Ferdinand. Yeah. It was so interesting. It was like, bloody hell, he knows a lot about football. I was
he could take over from Jamie Carragher, actually.
Oh, that's not a bad shout, to be fair. He can be a bit of a bias, yeah. It was like he seemed just so real there. It was like, oh my god, I didn't know you know that much. He was like talking about the press and say, the press Liverpool quite a lot in the games. Like, he made yourself feel like a very down to earth person because his parents or like his mum or maybe his dad, I don't know what Charles was like. But they were telling him this ain't the real world, or like telling him that you're very lucky to be in the position you are, and you can tell he's just very down to earth and. He just seems like a very nice bloke, and probably a lot of people look forward to him becoming king because you see, like, he's very. He just surprises me. Like, he was like, oh bloody hell, he knows quite a lot about this stuff. He just seems like a down to earth person that was raised right. I think it's the way you're raised that matters more than anything.
Yeah.
If you can have money and anything and stuff, if you have money, the best people, the people that have money, provide. But still are down to earth and very lovable, and they don't go bragging around saying they've got loads of money, and they're just a laugh and a good person to be with. Like, yeah.
100%. There was a point I was saying to a very loved friend of mine of the fact that I want to be in a position where I can provide for my children but not give them everything they want.
Yes, exactly.
I want to be in a place where if they need something, or if I want to give them something, or if I just, I want to be in a position where I could give them anything they want,
Yes.
but I choose not to do that,
Yes.
as to not put them in that position of just being pompous and greedy.
No.
There was a ex-girlfriend of mine has very profligate, a very profligate upbringing. Her parents came from nothing, and her dad and her mum had created for themselves a lovely life, and they had a nice bit of money behind them.
Yep.
And I remember that was sort of my first taste of, I suppose in many respects, it was like my first course of morals taught to me by someone that wasn't my parents.
Yeah.
And the one that I really took from them was being humble, because they had a lot of money, but they still made this girl, made her do her chores, made her sure that when she did them properly. She didn't.
Yes.
There's something that will always stick in my head of theirs. She said, Amelia, don't just pick things, don't just go around things, pick things up and go underneath them when you're cleaning off sides. Little name drop there.
Oh, there you go.
And yeah,
Instagram. I'll find them. No, I'm joking.
that works for me. But the point there was they taught her some very strong moral values, and they were in a position where they could provide as well. And I think that's the really pleasant place to be when it comes to that point.
Yeah.
Just being in a place where you could do it, affording yourself the luxury to do that, but not necessarily just pissing it up the wall, because then you've got piss on your wall.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, humble. Just humble. That's all. It's such a good thing. It's just
a wonderful trait.
It's a wonderful trait. If you're humble and everything, it just makes you a better person. I don't care how you could be the poorest man in the world. You could be one of the poorest people, but if you're humble and down to earth and an actual joy and a laugh to be with, I'd rather be friends with you than some rich dickhead.
Yeah, without question.
Without question. Some rich dickhead that just has so much money and we're just happy and dandy. It's boring. It's like I said, the true best people are the people that are humble, down to earth, forgiving, and if they've got money and stuff like that and they're still the same person, well, makes them an even better person.
Yes.
Because I like one line that comes to mind is Mr. Beast.
Yeah.
He's the richest man in the world. He's one of the richest men in the world, and he's doing more than anyone than any government has ever done for anyone else. He doesn't have to do what he's done. He's built wells. He's built schools in Africa. He's set food banks up. He's set ocean donations. He's set up tree. He's doing more than most people have ever done ever. It is unbelievable what he is doing. It's kind of funny to think what someone can do if they generally want to do it, and just fair play to him, because he's literally the definition of what we're talking about.
Yeah.
If someone that's humble, because he didn't have the story he said on his channel was that he lied about going to community college to his mum, and he was doing YouTube. And when he came home and said, "Oh, I haven't been going to community, but I got 10 grand," he gave his mum 10 grand. And when he started earning money, and then he just blew up. Now he's the most subscribed YouTuber, and he could have stopped at any point, but no, he prefers to give than receive. He'd rather give everyone else to make sure they're all happy, and it's brilliant. And that's the definition of just someone that's very humble and rather give than receive, and it's brilliant.
100%.
Yeah.
I have to say, this conversation very pleasantly has gone in a positive direction. I was feeling quite mellow, to be honest, when I came in here this morning, and for what it's worth, I'm feeling a lot more optimistic about things. I have to say, I've really enjoyed this conversation. This has been my favourite one that we've had, and for you to take away, if you're interested in starting your own podcast, you've conveyed your points and carried things really well here. And you took this in a direction that I'm very glad you took this in, but you should have credit for taking it, because I didn't think of the importance of talking about something like the job crisis and how that ties in. And we tied this together really well, but you deserve your flowers and your praise for what you've done in this conversation, because you've carried yourself really well and you've brought some really interesting topics to the table.
Thank you.
So with that as our outro, I'm going to conclude the microphones, but I just wanted to let you know, as always, I appreciate you. You're a good friend of mine, and yeah,
Thank you.
Had a nice time.
Yeah, I had a great time. We're going to do it again soon, mate.
We should do it again.
Thank you very much, mate. Thank you.
See you later, mate.
See you later.
Hello again.
Hello again. You're a dick. I don't like you.
No, don't cut this part out.
Oh no!